Welcome, everybody. This is the last presentation of the day. And this is one we hardly ever get to talk about, governance. We have a couple of members from the Cardano community, a couple of members from the Polkadot community here, both ecosystems that are pushing forward and trying to figure out this very important decentralization consensus of the social layer, right? Because we're going to kind of keep humans part of this blockchain thing. As AIs come around and these AI agents are, utilizing blockchain to do different things, possibly in the future manipulate the world, we probably want to keep humans part of the equation and part of the decision-making process, part of the consensus. So we're going to go down the line here. Everyone's going to tell you their name and the project that they're associated with, and then we're going to get started with some really juicy governance-related questions. Take it away, Xylo.
GM, my name is Xylo Drone. I am the co-founder of WebZero and the curator of the Events Bounty.
You also happen to have been responsible for everything that's happening here. Is that true?
That is true indeed.
Thank you very much for the great event. It's going great.
Anytime.
GM, everybody. So I'm Leemo. I hope you came to my presentation just before this. So I'm the Chief Nice Officer at Novasama Technologies, and I'm also the co-founder of ChaosDAO, who has probably neared your referendum in the past.
Thank you.
Testing. All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. And it's a great honor to be able to be amongst some wonderful people here in Polkadot.
Nice to have you.
I'm Mr. Cardano, so we should be doing this more often.
Very cool.
So my name is Sheldon Hunt. I am head of the Cardano ecosystem with Emergo, which is one of the founding entities of Cardano. But I've been on the governance side of Cardano in the trenches now for about 3 years. So we look up to a lot of the things you guys have been doing, and there's a lot that we can kind of further discuss on as we go forward with governance.
Nice to have you.
GM. Yeah, hello everyone. It's also my honor to be here. I'm Hinson. I'm the co-founder of SIDAN Lab, which is more of a ecosystem entity. I don't know how to describe it, because we do two things. First is our team maintain the core SDKs in Cardano, in TypeScript, and also Rust, a little bit of Golang as well. And another side of it is we are a team based Hong Kong that we host the Cardano Hong Kong community. And by the side, we also got a startup doing DeFi called DeltaDeFi. So yeah, we are essentially the same team. But yeah, it's super honored to be here. Like we in Cardano is kind of early stage in governance. And actually, I quite frequently go into the toolings in Polkadot to take some reference about what kind of things that we could build in Cardanos. So yeah, I look forward to the panel discussion today.
We've burned a lot of dot learning lessons in governance, and it's great if you can take anything from that. But look, I don't want to come up here and ask questions. I want to have an interesting discussion, and I'm just going to interrupt, and hopefully we can all learn more together here. But the first question I want to address to either of you guys is, what's the most controversial governance proposal that you can think about that's ever sailed through Cardano governance?
Well.
And if you guys have questions too, just pipe up and we'll get to the bottom of this.
Well, so right now with Cardano, because we are, as was just being mentioned by Hinson, we're still in the early stage of some of the community getting the hands-on for the back-end tech.
Yeah.
Though we've been playing around with governance as it relates to grants and the treasury in a limited way for like almost 7 years now, since the very beginning of Cardano. And so there have been some controversial projects that have gotten funded that are a little bit out there.
Okay.
But what is the spiciest stuff right now are all of the various, I guess you could say, some of the political bickering and the organization that's now starting to take place, where we have factions forming to put together gigantic proposals to get at the treasury when it unlocks in basically a month from now. So
I hate those big proposals, right? Because
Yes.
they're always like trust me bro proposals.
there's a lot of that.
Yeah, we've never done anything before, but we all got together, had 2 meetings on Telegram, and we need $6.4 million.
Yes, so that is exactly it. We've got some proposals out there floating around asking for around, I guess, like 400 million ADA,
Yeah.
which is like $100 million at today's price. So it's like
Really,
it's
truly.
it's an insane
What
request.
what are they promising they can do with $100 million?
The promise is this is going to be, it's an all-inclusive kind of budget breakdown. There'll be education, marketing, media, this and that. So it's pretty expansive. And it's coming from one of the members-based organizations, but it's still like, And then, well, I don't want to steal the whole thing, but there's like other attempts in the community to set up their own VC fund. And that's one of those trust me bros, and that makes a lot of people uncomfortable.
Cardano Treasury is what, $1 billion worth of ADA?
So in ADA, it's almost 1.5 billion ADA.
Oh, okay.
So that's, well, in today's price. So Cardano's had a good day today.
Yeah, I saw. Good. Congrats.
Yeah, around 800 million US dollars.
And there are groups who want to be like, I want a 1/8 slice of that.
Yes, because it's the idea that Cardano's been around for 7 years.
Yeah.
Let's just take the full-on 1/7 of that. Trust us. Let's just run with it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trust them.
I mean, also something to counter-propose is to just give them less money and they top up the fund. What's the problem?
What do you mean? Say it again.
Instead of giving all the money out immediately,
Yeah.
like they just have like a bit, and then when the fund runs out, you just top it up, because that's how bounties in our ecosystem function. So like the events bounty ran out of money after like 2 or 3 years, and then we've topped it up. Like it was $6 million initially, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And then we've just asked for another $1 million. I think it was like May or something like that, and then we run with that until it goes out, and then we ask for more. But it's good to do it this way, because then the community can assess if the people that are managing the fund have done a good job. We also have reports every quarter, so if you provide data and the community can assess by themselves if this is a good investment or not, that's maybe better than, trust me bro, give me a buttload of money.
I mean, we've had like omnibus requests as well. And the funny thing is, especially like requesting volatile assets at this time, when we all feel like things are, getting, could be worth more in the future.
Not financial advice.
Not financial advice, but I mean, we're all aware of the liquidity cycle. It's like, oh, it's worth 100 million today, but what, are we going to start a small country like in a year? Like what? That's crazy.
I think it's better to start small and build up like reputation, right? That's what Events Bounty's done. All the curators are all well-known in the ecosystem, good actors. They actually know how to do events. Like this one, it's miles better than like maybe the people requesting are already well-known, but with that amount of money, there needs to be like the best reputation people you've ever seen, right? So start small, actually progress through what they want to do, and then they can get topped up.
Yeah, actually, for me, just scrolling through the Twitter, this is actually what the community is asking for. But like right now, we in the community, we got a conspiracy theory, is that since we are in the very early stage in the governance, like very little participation. So there are people try to hack it, like take advantage of so little people still aware of it, lack of toolings, like not sure how to delegate, not sure how to vote. Then people controlling relatively large amount of stake at this moment try to unlock a large chunk of money at the beginning. And this is actually one thing that I think we in Cardano ecosystem have to learn from you guys. Like take a look into the early days, how you guys can get through that period. And
Well, let's dig into it a little bit about how the voting power works. So in Polkadot, it's token based. But you can also lock your tokens to amplify the power of each. You can lock up to 6x the power. How long do you lock it? 200 days or more?
I think it's 256 days at the moment.
256 days for a 6x power boost.
But it should be increased at some point.
Yeah, might want to think about that, eh? Yeah.
I guess we're with
how does it work over there?
Yeah, I think it's linear right now, right? Like one ADA, one vote.
Yep.
No such thing as locking.
Yeah, so exactly as he was mentioning. So yeah, right now it's very basic. It's just a 1 ADA, 1 vote. But what we've seen, because we've had limited governance as it relates to grant dispersals, And what's played out is that, and this is maybe a topic that we can get into later on, which is around participation, right?
Yeah.
You need to have more people stepping up to vote. But
Yeah.
we had a whole thing where there's an economy around vote renting, where you could go out and rent a whole lot of ADA that could then be thrown around to vote for particular proposals.
Oh.
And so
Really?
that's a real thing.
How does that work technically? Like you just promise that you'll vote on something?
Well, sometimes it'll be in the form of actually just taking like a big fat loan. Like you'll actually
Oh.
you know when there's going to be the dates when the wallet snapshot happens, everything's kind of like set for that period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, just take out a gigantic loan just to load up on ADA just to vote and then give it all back a month later.
Is there any locking period with voting? Or like how those funds are tied up for?
To my awareness, so far in Cardano ecosystem, we got 2 to 3 projects doing these things, and it's subject to the market demand and supply. Like how many of people willing to loan it out, and then how many people want to borrow it, and then there will be a order book kind of things like determining the rate. Like if you want to borrow it for a certain period, that everyone know that is a voting period, the interest rate will kind of spike a little bit. And
Yeah.
and so forth. If you want to lock down the future, then you have to commit into the loan earlier to get a cheaper rate, but you have to pay for a longer period of interest rate. So yeah, pretty financial. But so far, I don't feel like it's worthwhile to do it. Like the market rate normally is like 5 to 6% APR.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of expensive.
But outside of that learning mechanism, let's say I have $100,000 worth of ADA, and I vote yes on a proposal. One snapshot is taken. Can I just transfer my 100 grand's worth of ADA, or is there like a period that is like locked up? Because in Polkadot, unless you're at 0.1x conviction, which obviously slashes your vote by 10 times, there is some lockup period.
Yeah, so as of right now, there's really no lockup period. And this is like it's seen as a benefit by many people in the Cardano ecosystem. There's this
Sure.
whole idea of what's liquid staking. Everything is super liquid. And it also means that when you go by like general like altcoin metrics for like TVL and lockups, Cardano normally underperforms just because people have it sitting in their wallet staked to a node and they can just move it around super liquid. It doesn't count as any kind of lockup. So normally trying to get Cardano people to lock up any ADA to do anything is like pulling teeth.
Yeah, not really part of the culture, eh?
Yeah, part of the culture.
That's also what kind of built the Cardano culture, right? Was this easy staking and just earning rewards. And yeah, I remember like in the last cycle, like everybody was staking Cardano, and that's where you built a lot of believers.
Yes, and that's exactly it. So we got a lot of people who are kind of just dead set on doing that.
Yeah.
To tell them that, oh, you've got to lock it up for a set period of time to do governance. They're like, oh, fuck governance then.
Yeah, yeah. But if I'm staking, can I use that capital for governance, or it's one or the other?
No, it's both.
Yeah,
so like,
gotcha, yeah.
So like the
Same.
voting power and the actual aid itself, like they're both dual liquid, and so
That's cool.
yeah.
Okay, well, let's move it over to Polkadot, and then Hinson, I want to hear about your most controversial, but just to mix up the panel, most controversial that we've ever dealt with?
Depends in which period. I think the first controversial proposal was the forced transfer.
Okay, tell us about it.
By DeltaDeFi. So I think there was this team. I think there were 727 Ventures, if I'm not mistaken.
They became, yeah.
Yeah, and I think they did like a digital event, and some funds were sent to them, and then somebody that was running away from Ukraine because of the war and stuff lost their ledger, and these funds were basically just sitting there, and nothing was going on with them. So, you know, the DeltaDeFi people were like, okay, why don't we just take this back to the treasury?
Right.
But obviously, forced transfer is something that's very controversial because what it would do, it would move the funds from that account back into the treasury. And obviously, that is kind of bad for business of blockchain because, you know, it's... it comes with a lot of legal problems to begin with and all of the other ones. But like now this conversation has been raised again because the Heroic team has got their funds stuck in like a proxy account, I think on Asset Hub or something.
Yeah.
So it's being debated whether they should use it. But again, the same controversy applies.
Yeah.
And then later, there were a lot of controversies about the marketing bounty.
It's the coin market cap animated logo.
Yes, we even made a meme of that in an event.
Okay, so let's stick with the forced transfer. Did you guys get that? Is that possible on Cardano? No. Yeah, so we have...
Yeah, not possible.
Yeah, we can call... I mean, obviously, you understand why it's controversial, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you could get the whole weight of all the token holders behind you to force transfer, it is possible on Polkadot. And
I think there's kind of similar to a hard fork, the kind of concept that you rewrite the ledger a little bit. Right? It's like the ETH, ETC, that kind of thing. Forced transfer, indeed, is just...
Yeah. No, now you exactly. You see why it's controversial. So there was like this team that, trust me, bro, we lost our ledger in the Ukraine war. And, so there's that situation. And now there's a situation where we paid somebody from the treasury, and now their funds are stuck. So should we force it over to a place where they can access it? I don't know.
I mean, this is a bit different, right? Because these funds could just be unlocked with a network upgrade.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, they might be, yeah.
Yeah, so in my opinion, I don't think it should be done. People should just wait. But then on the other side, these people like Heroic's doing really good advertising for Polkadot.
Yeah.
And it's not fair to them to not have the funds right now, and we don't know when this network upgrade is going to come. Eventually it's like soon TM, and we might be skeletons by that.
Did they get DOT or stables?
So this force transfer thing, it depends on a mix of like on-chain and social layer dynamics, right?
Yeah.
So in the case of the previous force transfer, the person that received the funds did say that they lost the seed phrase. It's in their house in Kiev or whatever. But the community was not happy with doing that, even though they got given the funds again by the council. In terms of the heroic force transfer, so in Polkadot we have a thing called a pure proxy, which is a keyless account, right? So you have this keyless account, and then there's an any proxy, so your hot wallet or whatever, can tell this pure proxy what to do. Pure proxies only exist on the network they're created on. So Heroic team created a pure proxy on the Polkadot relay chain, and they got USDT, which exists on Polkadot Asset Hub, but they sent it to the same address. So the proxy account, or the pure proxy exists, but there's no any proxy link, so nobody can touch the funds. So now the question is, do we force transfer? They could, from the pure proxy on Polkadot, do a system remark, so broadcast to the chain, hey, this is our funds, like you can see that we control this pure proxy on Polkadot, please force transfer the funds for us. That, for me, I don't think is controversial. But I am also the person that posted the previous force transfer referendum. So.
Or hopefully we can just fix that UX nightmare as well. Yeah.
In a future runtime upgrade.
Yeah.
So I just have a quick question about like Polkadot and the forced transfer mechanism. How much of a voter threshold do you need to reach to actually execute on a forced transfer?
So forced transfer should be through the root track. And the root track, there's like these curves, right? So it trends towards 50% I and 0% turnout. But the root track has a capacity of one referendum per like 28 days, let's say. So it's like front and center, everybody has a lot of time to review it. It's not something you can just like sneak through. Whereas like the small tipper track for like $250, you can have like 100 of those, right? But the root track is very clear, one ref at a time.
And how much capital do you have to lock up in order to propose to the root track?
It's 100,000 dots, so 600 grand at the moment, or 500 grand.
Yeah, $500,000. So it's tough to even post the ref, and then it's a tough curve to beat. Hard to sneak through, but yeah.
I can certainly see the appeal of it. Obviously, for like the reasons you mentioned, I would maybe get a little bit concerned that perhaps it's and maybe it's a good thing, but if there was ever to be like a project that was to slowly rug, could the community turn on them and be like, hey, I think of this as an example because here in Cardano land, wearing my Cardano hat, just yesterday, it was like the full rug of a project called Meld. Oh. And 3 years ago, they raised $40 million worth of ADA and then proceeded to move to Avalanche, and then yesterday rugged everybody, go to zero.
Boo.
And so it's an example. Like I'm hearing this and like, wow, we should maybe have that in Cardano.
Force transfer from
Force
them.
transfer,
Yeah.
But the only thing is, like, it takes 28 days to execute. So they
Yeah,
should
bear
run
in mind
away.
they could move the funds.
Yeah. You could always move the funds. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. Okay, Hinson, we want to hear from you. You're the most controversial proposal, ever.
Actually, in Cardano, pre the current hard fork, that we didn't have the real on-chain governance yet.
Yeah.
It's just tiny projects. Like we have a mechanism called Project Catalyst. It's actually the major funding source of our team that get, for example, a few tens of Ks of ADAs, each proposals, or USD per proposals. And for those, always have been some of the little dramas. Like there's one proposal that we witnessed, it's called Cardano Hong Kong for Women. Then ask for 100K, something like that. Just for the proposal itself, just one liner. We'll try to enhance the awareness of Cardano Hong Kong women. Then the proposal get passed.
Okay, so you're going to get
Then-
female attention by splashing around ADA?
Yeah.
Is that
That's early
okay.
days, but the operation team kind of very quickly, after noticing that, just dismissed the proposal. There's some
man.
of the controversial on two sides. The first side is, how come someone could just propose something that without any contents, and then eventually the decision is getting funded, kind of folded by ADA. Another controversial part is like, how come can the operation team just dismiss the proposal by themselves? So that kind of little drama early on.
Yeah.
And the recent one is literally just the two proposals that Sheldon has just mentioned, like the 500 million unlock from Interset, the founding entity, the kind of member-based organization. Another is like the VC, like the 200 million unlock, try to do Cardano VCs, the two proposals that Sheldon mentioned.
So a bunch of ADA unlocked to give to a bunch of different VCs who are active in the ecosystem?
One VCs.
To one
Yeah.
VC, 200,000 ADA.
200 million.
200 million
ADA, yeah.
ADA.
$100 million.
Yeah, but this proposal is actually a leak. Like they never officially proposed it in the public.
Oh, okay.
Someone listened into the kind of internal meeting, leaked the PowerPoint to the community.
Spicy.
Yeah, spicy.
Modest.
That's the thing about like I mentioned AI in the intro there. AIs just don't have gossip or drama or anything like that, right? They're just either doing it or
Dark
not.
gov.
Yeah, they don't have dark gov. But speaking of which, Leemo, I'm very curious to hear. You're on the inside, the outside, on every side. What's the most controversial proposal you've ever come across?
Does it have to have passed?
No, of course not. What do you mean? What do you mean? No.
Chain analysis.
Oh, talk about it. Yeah.
So to give the Cardano guys a bit of a rundown, so chain analysis has come to the Polkadot Treasury 3 times.
Yeah.
3 times. So the last time they came, so we have this mechanism in Polkadot called the decision period and the confirmation period. So they came on the biggest spend track, the treasurer track, which has these curves we talk about. They're very modest, let's say, and it takes a long time for stuff to get passed. Now, it might be on day 26 out of 28, it goes to confirmation period. But the confirmation period is 7 days. So after 2 days of confirmation period, if they fall below 50%, it just instantly rejects.
Sudden death.
So me and J-Dog over here were talking about this on our little AAG show. And I think within the hour of it being possible, it got rejected instantly.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of weird stuff going on in Polkadot. A lot of whales that they don't vote often, but they do vote and they do swing stuff. I have a question for the Cardano boys. Okay, so it sounds like you're going to have a hard fork and have more open governance, let's say. What's the general community's plan to like evangelize governance? So for example, in Polkadot, we have AAG, we have groups like ChaosDAO, where even like a referendum for like $1,000, we're like, no, this person's not very nice, and like evangelize, like kind of lobby, let's say, around every referendum, and there's like 4 a day. It's ridiculous. So how are you guys gonna approach that if you have like 3 referendums, 4 referendums a day, requesting money for this event, for example, or a free beer stall at an event. Like, yeah, are you guys prepared for that? Are you going to have podcasts? Are you going to get the information out there? UIs on how like to make voting better and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. This question is about how to get awareness as a if we get proposal.
'Cause it's difficult.
Yeah. For our team, we quite actively run campaign. We said if you check out our Twitter, you see a lot of different videos and interviews, AMAs, a lot of those kind of things. But for us, we are also kind of try to target some super connector to at least make our idea well known. Like our team partner with quite a few kind of major KOLs, but those are not the KOL taking interview for money. They just try to spread the news, that kind of things. And then we try to schedule interview with each of them, like Cardano with Paul, Pete, Dev Central. Yeah, those are the guys we reach out the most. And on the other hand, we try to also talk to some super connector, like a little bit hidden. For us, we kind of close to the Japanese community, actually. And if you know about the history of Cardano, the three founding entities, for the one that Sheldon was working on is an Emergo-based venture capital. So indeed, at the start of Cardano, there are a lot of people who don't know anything about blockchain, don't know anything about crypto. In Japan, they buy tons of ADAs early on. So this, we try to talk to the kind of local community hosts to kind of at least make our proposals well known, that kind of things. Yeah, that's our approach.
Yeah, well, so like thinking about it from kind of like the Cardano ecosystem perspective as it relates to like participation and governance, we're still in somewhat early days because obviously, as we mentioned before, like playing around with governance in like those smaller silos for grants, it did come to be that there'd be like some of these like super groups, these DAOs that would form to circulate proposals that they would want to vote, and there'd be some alliances, and you partner up. And now we've got, and I think it's kind of somewhat similar to what you guys did in Polkadot early on, where you had like a bit of like a superstructure for committees, like working groups. There's this bureaucracy that forms. I'm a little bit lukewarm on that, but it is at least the beginnings of, I guess, like a superstructure or some infrastructure to put in place some of the tooling and bring awareness at the minimum. Because there is a bit of a fear in Cardano that we could have like mob rule or too many cooks in the kitchen, right? Where people are all over the place. So they wanted to set up these working groups and these committees and have various lines of reporting, but it becomes a bit of a bureaucratic mess. And that is a problem. For awareness, we're trying to do more online to kind of reach out to people. As like Hinson was saying, there is a large Japanese community of whales who are otherwise very quiet. They're not super active on X, on Twitter.
Sure.
And so trying to get them to do anything, you can actually move the needle quite a bit. But yeah, awareness around governance is not always the sexiest thing, as you guys know. The drama catches eyeballs, but it's normally for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And so it's a constant struggle. And so we should maybe even have a joint governance, I don't know, fireside chat on a regular basis.
Totally.
I've found making governance like a core part of like a community to be quite effective, actually. Like in ChaosDAO we do it, and now in KoosDAO, new DV tomorrow.
Yeah.
We found it's quite an engaging way because there's a lot of people probably in this room as well that are engaged in governance, but maybe don't have like millions of DOT, so they feel a bit disenfranchised about it. But then if they join a voting group and they now have, like, let's say there's 100 voting members, so now they have 1% of a vote of 6 million DOT. Now they feel like very empowered and more passionate about it and share information. And there's a lot of like subject matter experts that'll like give like their opinion about stuff. So like when you're saying about bureaucracy, I think something that Mr. Atlas and Bob is doing right now is this constitution thing. So for example, through OpenGov, if there's like an event, well, we have the events bounty that are subject matter experts at this field. So it makes sense that probably events can just go through those guys. And they provide their actual reasoning. This was terrible, we didn't fund it, or this was good, so we funded it. And because the community historically was not very good at funding events, if I had to be honest with you.
But you know, I really share your concerns there, Sheldon, with bureaucracy. I mean, what really happened with Polkadot is in the beginning we had this council. I think it was like 11 people or something like that. 13 was it? Yeah. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, it was open season completely, no structure whatsoever. Yep. And now there's these structures starting to form, and which is great because we did do a lot. We had a lot of waste. We had a lot of overhead. But I am skeptical. I don't want these structures to form and then we calcify around the wrong people, the wrong ideas. We introduce fragility into the system, basically systems that can be corrupted. This really, really frightens me, and I think it's worth the waste to make sure we don't paint ourselves into a corner, because there's no cost, or there's no price tag on staying resilient, on lasting through the ages, on lasting decades. If we try to save a few bucks by creating fragile structures today, well, we could be nowhere in a few years. So I am very concerned about that.
Yeah.
I do think that based on everything we've experienced so far, I think people, I don't think it's going to be that bad, and we have to have faith, because every time that there was some kind of mess, either with the events bounty or the marketing bounty, people just got removed.
Yes, that's true, yeah.
So
we've been practicing that as well.
yeah. It's not fun to go through that process at all. I can tell you that. It's not even fun being a curator, because you have to basically write out these rules, and then you have to make people follow them, which is not very entertaining, and most people don't read.
Yeah.
And they don't care. And then when you tell them you should read and you should do ABC, they get upset, and then they FUD. Or they go to OpenGov and luckily get rejected again. So even that, like everybody that tried to surpass us got NAID and OpenGov. So it didn't matter, and people have now kind of this social understanding, for an example, with the events, that, you should go to the events bounty, and if they made you, you probably shouldn't get funding at all. And also, I'd like to mention the Wish for Change track, which is basically a track where you don't get funding, but you propose an idea which way an ecosystem should go. And like recently, Alice and Bob put up a proposal of what the rules of a bounty should be. Is it up? I think it's up. Or is it going up soon?
Yeah, it's soon, I guess. It's not up? It is up.
I think so.
God, I haven't checked governance for like a whole 2 days. I'm feeling like a little like...
I have one final question for the Cardano boys, if I'm allowed, because we are past time.
Yeah, but obviously...
But we are the last panel.
Yeah, so we can go all night.
Okay.
Cocktails at 7.
So, for the Polkadot people in the audience, Polkadot OpenGov is fully self-executing. That's runtime upgrades all the way to spending $10 for something, right? In Cardano land, is it all self-executing? Because for me, if your governance isn't self-executing, it's not really governance. We've seen with Arbitrum, I think there was a nice little, don't give the team a load of money or something, and then they just did it anyway.
Yeah, who pulls the trigger? Who pulls the trigger? Because in Polkadot, everybody pulls the trigger.
So does the protocol pull the trigger, or does somebody else pull the trigger?
It's a very good question. We want to get to a point where the protocol pulls the trigger, but as of right now, there is a bit of like an administration layer.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like running through a catalyst. And so there are a few people who do have their fingers on the trigger. The idea was that you didn't want to have any like abuse. You wanted to make sure it worked, this and that, and weren't even sure the best way to go about it. But yeah, we need to get to a point where it is all on chain, it's all there, it's all self-executing, but we still have some pretty big unanswered questions about like how it's going to shape up. There's still cultural battles. Like in Cardano, as maybe some of you guys are aware, there's a bit of like a libertarian streak to it. There is cultural components that are more like US focused. They want to have a constitution, they want to have like checks and balances, this whole like form of things. And then there's others who just don't care.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, got to like square those boxes. If you've got people in Japan or people in Nigeria, they don't care about what the US thinks on this stuff. But we need to get to a point where, we can actually have an agreement at least around the basic principles of like a self-executing governance structure.
So cool. Well, I hope you guys get there. Yeah, go ahead.
Just a tiny supplement. I think the direction is going into self-executed, but right now it's not 100% fixed. So that's why our hard fork got 2 phases. Now we just got through the first phase where most of the ledger updates are imposed. And then now we are in the middle of going to second phase where people could really propose a treasury unlock. But right now we have a thing called interim constitutional committees that a few people that you know their faces, actually you could go after them.
Yeah.
Like kind of designing these kind of details. And it's kind of exposed another little cultural thing about Cardano is that so far our governance as people will intend to recognize the faces. Like if you want to propose something, try to do something, usually there's an organization or there's a guy that you know their face, you know where they live, country at least. And then, people will look into the face and there are some human nuances in the governance. Yeah.
Is there not any problem with, let's say, certain countries, three-letter agencies coming after those people? The people that have the finger on the trigger, if they all get arrested, how does stuff execute?
That is a real concern, and it is something that we've already had some issues with, where we've had some elected reps who fled Brazil to go to Uruguay because of the change in government there, and then other things. And so, because we do have in Cardano, there's like 3,000 like stake pool operators around the world, and they're running. Yeah, and he's one of them. But then it means that like all of these people can also be like D-reps. They can also become politicians on the chain, and you can open yourself up to some legal concerns, and depending upon your jurisdiction, political consequences. And so we're still digesting this right now. Actually, at the end of this year, in December, there's going to be a constitutional convention in Buenos Aires to launch a Cardano constitution.
Wow.
And it's a bit of like a harebrained idea, but we'll see if we can kind of start to like actually build some of the infrastructure of what I think a lot of us refer to as like the digital nation state, right? And so, but I actually have a bit of I know we're at, time's up, but a question for you guys in Polkadot land. Has there been much of a discussion around maybe moving away from the 1.1 vote, maybe having DIDs or some kind of like proof of life? Is this something
It's a big discussion. You want to say something quick?
So one problem with that is not getting the Chinese social score problem.
Yeah.
And that's super controversial. I think that one of the most interesting things about governance in Web3 is that we could potentially see what is the next governance model beyond democracy. But we need to be careful with these reputation systems because they could go very bad really quick. Obviously, the current model is it's not a democracy. It's more akin to like shareholder voting. And that is like, it fits perfectly. And if this could be expedited and like packaged into a product where companies can issue their shares like on chain and like vote in this kind of way, it's not just tokens, it's very appealing. But something like DIDs and reputation systems, in my opinion at least, are not that close. Sure, we can build it very fast if we think of a system, but to think of a more quote maybe just or like fair system, that will take a hot minute probably.
Yeah, I'm not a fan either, but there are some big Polkadot holders working on this
I've
stuff.
heard.
Yeah.
I work at Novasama Technologies, who, as per Gavin's presentation at Web3 Summit, is working on this kind of stuff. I'm not allowed to say anything more, but I wouldn't worry too much.
NDA?
Very much so, yeah.
There are so many directions we could take this conversation. Time's up, apparently, on the screen
We
it
can
says.
keep going for another 20 minutes.
Yeah, no, well, we could, yeah. But we'll save it for later. It's nice to talk with friends in governance, and you brought up the network state there. Figuring out how to create resilient social systems and have these blockchains that can stand up to nation states when they become overbearing. Hopefully, we're going into an age of prosperity, but it's not guaranteed by any means. So let's make sure we build the systems that are pro-human and something that we can use, our children can use. And we're trailblazing that right here. Thanks very much, everybody, for being part of this panel.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for being here today.